It's another Fourth Art Saturday video hop organized by Meri Atelier. Please follow the description box below for the links to the other crafters and artists. Hello survivors, hi family and friends, this is Roy from Bootsie Sweettarts Guide to Life and Other Disappointing Experiences with another Fourth Art Saturday video hop. This month's theme is teachers. As a retired teacher, I thought this was right up my alley. So what I did though was thought about first this old argument, is teaching an art, a craft, a skill, or a science? Well, after 33 plus years teaching and working with families and children in the New York City public schools, I can attest to the fact that it's all four. But today we're going to focus on art. Teaching as an art. So I have my little notes here, you can see. Think about the hats that a teacher has to wear to get through a day. They have to be performance artists. They have to bring curriculum alive. They have to make facts come to life, be very dramatic. They have to be actors and comedians and storytellers, all artists, performing arts, fine arts. They have to transform someone else's words into a form that will engage the kids. You have to be able to write, be a poet, tell stories, decorate bulletin boards, interior design, decorate your classroom, put on shows for the assemblies, focusing mostly on elementary school because that's where my whole life had been. So how do we show our appreciation to these wonderful artists? And here's where the theme comes in. Kind of stretched a little bit. But I decided to make a thank you gift for teachers. Little thing. And I've learned that the best thing I can get is a handmade gift, something from the heart that a teacher, that a student has given to me. So for this art hop, excuse me. Excuse me. I'm going to make a boutique tissue box cover with an education theme. Told you I was stretching it. So please stay with this wonderful tribute, especially in these days, to people who are underpaid, overworked, and underappreciated. The teacher. So just a little background. I became a licensed New York City school teacher in 1969. It was the perfect fit for me. Little did I realize that my love of art would be my primary skill in so many ways. And with the broadest definition of art. If you think about some of the things that an artist does with creativity, intuition, ingenuity, and all of those, I guess, traits that make an artist great, make school teachers great too. Now again, I'll repeat, I'm only speaking from experience in the elementary school, but just all of the fine arts, besides all of the technical art, just makes a good teacher a great teacher. So today's project is making a tissue box cover. I've made many. It's one of my favorite things to do. They're easy. They go together quickly. They can be heavy. This one is single ply. Fits right over a tissue box. This is probably the easiest and in a way, the most fun. The only lining that I have is the top of the tissue box cover so that we could finish the edge of the circle where the tissue pops out. Holidays are great. Here's a piece one. This one's a lot of work because this is all pieced. And this my interpretation of a dreidel. My Christmas tissue boxes are all packed away. I've got to get them out. We're into that season. Here's toile. This one's a beautiful one. Very well finished inside. And for my first couple of years of retirement, besides doing some consulting work for 2 universities, I tried my hand at craft fairs. For anyone that's done a craft fair, you know you have to be in the best physical, mental shape to do something like that. So with the rentals getting so expensive, I decided it was time to just move on and stop doing the craft fair. But you can see some of my setup. And it was fun when I was doing it, but it was exhausting. Anyway, I'll get on with this. Here's a Kwanzaa tissue box cover. I can put together all different fabrics. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. So now I'll do step-by-step narration. This is not a detailed tutorial in any sense of the word. It's a big kind of gestalt on how I put together this particular one, which was much more involved than I would normally do because I wanted it durable, so I have it Mod Podged. And you'll see that I've made some discoveries while doing this where I'm changing some of the steps and how to do this. So here we go. For the simplest of tissue box covers, all you need is 4 side panels and a top fabric. The top fabric needs a lining. If you want the seam of the circle, the opening, to be very smooth. If you want to get a little more involved, you can line the 4 panels as well, which is what I do minimally. And then if you want to get even fancier, this is the wrong size, but you make a sandwich, which is what we're doing for this, on both sides and top. And of course you have your templates that you've measured and made out of cardboard or whatever. There's a template. So you have 2 patterns, 2 templates. In my case I have 3 templates. You'll see why. Fashion fabrics and lining fabrics, and optionally batting. First, of course, you must measure the tissue box so you know what size template you make. Measuring is kind of really important on this because you want it to fit snugly, but you don't want it to be too tight. I transfer all measurements and all instructions as much as I can onto the template. Reduces the amount of paper I have to have when I put it together. For me, it's the easiest way to cut cardboard is with the general utility knife from the hardware store. Again, you're always checking, making sure that it fits right. Transfer those measurements onto the fabric. The batting is going to be a 1/4 inch smaller all around than the tissue box panel because you don't want that thickness in the seam. I do most of the sewing from the lining side, so I'm transferring all the measurements to the lining, the batting, the stitching line, the cutting line. Then I tack down the batting with some glue. You can pin it, and I sew an X to hold it down so it doesn't move around. Of course, you trim now because it can get distorted when you start sewing the X's and whatnot. In this case, you pin both sides, right sides together, wrong sides together. Sorry about that. Because I'm going to finish the edge with a serged edge. This I won't do in the future because it just creates too many seams, and you'll see why. So I wouldn't suggest doing this except for maybe basting down. Now here again we're going to, on all 4 panels, after they're sewn together, mark the stitching line. That's crucial because we're going to have those Y seams, which we talked about in previous videos. The top is the same. Draw a circle. Again, the batting is 1/4 of an inch away from the stitching. I put little holes in the corners of the template to make it easier to just poke a pen or pencil, or in this case Frixion, through so I can get accurate measurements. And then you transfer that circle to the batting, and you'll see here I'm doing a 1/4 of an inch circle around, outline around this original opening. That is where we'll cut the batting so that it stays out of the stitching. Here again I use the Frixion, which erases and disappears. Put right sides together, and we're going to now secure the top to the lining with a stitch line around the circle. And there again, the stitching line is important. We're going to cut the fabric, the circle, lining and fabric, leaving about 1/4 of an inch. If you can get even smaller, that helps. And clip, of course, it's a curve, you want to clip as much as you can. Then you feed the lining through the main fabric, and you get a very nice finished edge. Pressing is important. I press, press, press. Can't impress upon you to press. And then top stitch coming. Oh, here we are putting the batting. I forgot the batting there. Putting the batting in, and now we have to secure this all so it doesn't move around. And again, here that X is important. The X also gives you some lining lines to match up so that it looks even more finished. So you top stitch and then sew the batting down with a quilting of some sorts. You could quilt this. I don't think you need to. It has a nice feel and puffy feel when you put the batting in any way at all. Again, here I'm trimming down to size now after a lot of the sewing is done. I should have probably trimmed after I sewed everything in place. Here, this little X. So that's something for the next time. There's stitching again, check, measure, check. Here's those holes I use as registration marks. Here's the Y seam coming into play. You must keep the stitching line clear for you to see, and you put those dots where we're going to stop sewing. Here we go, see? Stop at those lines, those spots, those dots. We're making progress here. We have now 4 panels, and we're going to sew the panels together using that stitching line with the dots at the end. You want that 1/2 inch seam allowance free so it doesn't get caught up in the Y seam. You do that to all 4 panels, and you wind up with a tube of sorts. I'm clipping everything together so that everything stays in place. This is kind of, I guess, the most important part. Then you're doing the same kind of process. Sew the top to the side tube making sure the stitching all matches. Those dots are crucial to get nice corners. And you just go from corner to corner, and it's basically we're rounding home plate on this. Can't believe I used a sports analogy. They play with that little round ball. I don't think they use that egg-shaped ball. It's a little manipulating. You see here that dots are matched up. You want to keep all the mishigots out of that seam stitching. You only want the two pieces of fabric caught up. Now you wind up with it inside out. And here's this beautiful fabric that I found. Now it's all finished. I added a binding on the bottom. It sits flat. What's nice about it is it's substantial enough where when you pull out the tissue, the cover doesn't come off. A lot of fabric covers come off. They're not tight enough. So it's kind of important to make sure it's fitted correctly. It's a little more involved than I would normally do, but it has to be durable. It'll be kid handled. It has to be kid safe. And I'm very happy with the way it turned out. But I have some takeaways with this. I would not seal this with the Mod Podge, the fabric, before putting it together. It makes it very, very heavy. I'd always starch the main fabric and lining. That I always do. It helps control them. I would sew the layers together first this next time, rather than sew each panel, serge each panel. Then I'd use a 1/2 inch seam allowance and trim it down later. Boutique tissues come in many different sizes, so be careful you measure if you're giving it as a gift with some extra tissue boxes. If possible, use a fusible batting, or even if you wish a fusible interfacing with some body to it. You see now, these are sewn. I went back and serged this together, so there's only one seam here. I would do that next time. Well, this was a fun and important project for me, talking about teaching as an art and teachers as artists. Thank you all for viewing this tribute to teachers. Think of things that you can give to your children's teacher, or if you're in adult education, whoever is instructing you. It's a gift from the heart that's more appreciated than you can imagine. Please check the description box below. See the HOP members in a playlist. Follow them. See how they interpreted the theme for the 4th Art Saturday video hop, theme being teachers. So please stay well, stay smart, stay healthy. Bye for now.